Hello there everyone, my name is Mathew McKenna and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to react to YUNGBLUD again. I did a video on YUNGBLUD a few weeks back and it went very well and a lot of you liked it and a lot of people requested a part 2. I know that it's kind of weird that I do like part 2 and part 3 of never having listened to someone before, and I understand that technically I have listened to them before, but like I'm still coming in almost blind. The only experience I have with YUNGBLUD are the other 4 songs I reacted to. Now I've got 4 new ones that I'm unsure of anything, and given how varied YUNGBLUD was before, I would not be surprised if all of these songs sounded nothing like any of the other ones that I'd already heard. So that's what we're doing today. My wonderful editor Billy has curated a list of songs for me to listen to based off of what you guys have said in the comments. Before we start though, if you are new here, make sure you click subscribe and enable notifications so you get notified anytime I upload a new video. Let's just get into it then. No more patter, we're jumping straight into it. So the first song is called Hope for the Underrated Youth. Now I know that this was requested in like every single comment in the last video, so let's get it out of the way first. Bam! Somewhat of an intense start and shot. Okay, this is... Alright, I'm just gonna hazard a quick guess. I know that it's been 12 seconds, but I hadn't really thought much about the title, and I'm gonna guess that it's about a lot of the struggles that we face. I mean, straight up, we saw people running, we saw blood, we saw gun violence, and what looked like a protest. So I'm assuming it's gonna touch on a lot of the political issues that we deal with as, you know, underrated youth, right? So based on some of the lyrics I just listened to there was a line right at the end that was like, and change my second name from a juvenile state, that kind of makes it seem like the idea is the views that younger people have on the world are just completely ignored because of like inexperience or whatever. I'm saying this as though I'm not young. I am quite young, but I'm just conscious of the fact that like there are younger people that are currently going through this. Even for me, it's very discouraging to see how much our concerns are just cast to the side. Just take my We're like a minute into this and I feel like there hasn't really been any instruments or anything. It's pretty much just been him and like, you know, maybe like a plucking of guitar very slowly in the background. I wonder if the point of that is to like get ready for this kind of hype drop, which feels like it's coming and should be coming soon. There you go. I'm gonna say this again, the shouting there just sounds like Gerard Way. I can't unhear it. I mean, I'm sure that My Chemical Romance was like an influence on him, given the clothing choices, the song styles, and the song topics. Every day is an episode of oh, hello rap. My head won't let me go, like if I died, you'd never know. Damn, that rap was fire. I liked that. I hope there's more of that. That was really solid. It came out of nowhere, and it was like one of those quite fast-paced raps that just kind of I really enjoy. Anyway, let's keep going. See, it feels like now we're touching on elements of war. This is a really groovy little breakdown. I don't mind that. Damn. They're gonna shoot him too. Yikes. So that got a little full on at the end there. I think I was quite right with what I thought the messaging of it was, but like the end there where they all got shot, it definitely didn't seem like a throwaway sort of thing. And the way I took that was like that he spent this whole song kind of drumming up the ways that they were overlooked and kind of dismissed. At the end there, they kind of banded together and stood up, and then they just got gunned down anyway. So it's kind of like, hey, we're standing up against you, but you are still actively destroying us and what we stand for and our futures. So that's a music video that got me thinking. Let's move on to the next one, which is called Tin Pan Boy. I wonder if this is going to be a bit lighter. I like this really old-timey time card.
This huge construction project could also change the character of areas on its route forever.
This feels way more British.
I don't wanna say you shouldn't work that way. People's lives ain't a game just 'cause you can pay.
This is really creative camera work.
You wanna take my toys, hey, you, Mr. Developer.
This is like super reminiscent of British punk. That's all I'm vibing off of this. I'm getting like mad like Sex Pistols vibes and just that sort of era. Even the like hey you sort of lyrics, that's very reminiscent of older punk, which is kind of what he is. Even with his newer stuff, it's quite like that old school English punk but brought into a pop era, which is a really cool melding. You're just a tin-tan boy, a big fat boy, hey, you, Mr. Inheritance. definitely feels like a song that's like a f the man sort of thing. This idea of like, hey, you're kind of screwing over the little guy. Having these massive developments, having proprietary properties, and having like huge venture capitalist investment firms, it can really, really not be good for society as a whole, but be really good for like a few people. Well, a few rich people.
You say I'm only writing songs, so get up off your ass and get a proper job.
I absolutely love when artists kind of reference the fact of like, everyone thinks that music or acting or film work or whatever isn't a real job. But then they'll happily just consume the arts. So they'll consume the results of not a real job, but then hate the people that make the stuff that they listen to.
I'm just a tin pan boy. Don't wanna take my toys. Hey, you, Mr.
I seriously can't get over how English this is. Not that I like haven't heard his English accent in previous songs, but it's just, not even just the accent, just everything about this song is so British. I mean, to be honest, I'm always going to be a fan of like anti-establishments, anti-the man songs, because I mean, we need more of that now. I feel like we went through a long period where at least like pop music and even a lot of popular rock music didn't have that sort of vibe. And I feel like YUNGBLUD really doesn't shy away from any political messaging or just really saying how he feels. So I think that's a good thing. I think we need more of that. All right, so the second last song we're going to listen to is called Psychotic Kids. So I would also wager that this is going to be something about like the youth and how they're dismissed. I mean, I'm just gonna go ahead and guess that this will be about the idea of how a lot of the older generations kind of dismiss our concerns under the guise of us just being like mentally ill or wanting to like make issues out to be worse than they are. I often hear things like, oh wow, kids these days are so depressed and so sad and everything's terrible. I'm like, no, we're just more open about talking about our feelings. If you think that people haven't been depressed for like the entirety of human civilization, boy, do I have news for you. Again, a completely different vibe. So I think I was a little bit wrong about the messaging, but like one of the lines there was psychotic kids, we gotta keep control of them. And I honestly think that's probably one of the biggest issues that older generations have with us, and that's that they kind of have started realizing they can't control us. Young people are mobilizing en masse for things they care about, and that's terrifying for people who want the status quo to be the same as it is. So maybe I was kind of a little bit right. Why do you want to turn back time? To me, that's like, why do you want to go back to the way things were? There's this whole sentiment from a lot of people that's like, why can't we go back to the good old days? I want things back the way they were when I could say and do whatever I want without any regard for anyone's feelings or consequence of my actions. I feel like it's really touching on that kind of idea. Come and take a ride in my psychotic mind of like these crazy new ideas of being nice to people and considerate of people's feelings.
But they don't know fucking anything. Say youth is wasted on the young.
That's a really cool line, that they think youth is wasted on the young. I hear a lot of people really condescendingly say that like, oh, if only you kids knew how good you had it, and start having these ideas of like, kids have no idea. They have no idea what's good for them, they have no idea what they want, and they have no idea how to be kids. While simultaneously creating a world and creating a dynamic where kids are kind of unable to be kids, right? It's like those weird people that complain about Greta Thunberg being the person that people are looking to for guidance, saying, well, she shouldn't be that because she's 16 and blah, blah, blah. And even Greta herself is like, yeah, I shouldn't be here. She said that in speeches, that she shouldn't have to be here, but she does have to be there because of the inaction of other people. It's like people be like, oh, kids have no idea how to be kids, but we're making them not be kids by making terrible choices. Maybe I've gone on a bit of a rant. Let's keep going. I'm just listening to this more and I'm like, yes, I am going to be singing this later on. I know it, it's a fact. I apologize to everyone in my vicinity because I will definitely be singing this song. Gonna make sure it's in everyone's heads.
They don't know what they want.
All right, so the very last song we're gonna listen to is called Polygraph Eyes. Based on the title, I don't really have any ideas or guesses as to what this will be about. So how about we just find out together? Before we get into this last song, I wanna give a really quick content warning because it does deal with some intense and sensitive subjects like sexual assault and rape and someone taking advantage of someone who is very drunk. So if you have any issues with those topics, I just thought I would let you know right now that we're going to be talking about those. Maybe this is the effect they were going for, but like for some reason I instinctively held my breath while the camera was shaking around like that. So it made me a little bit anxious after like 20 seconds because I was like, oh, I have to breathe.
Get away from the teenage, everyday cliche pressure. Absent on absinthe, dancing to bad synth.
Absinthe to absinthe, dancing to bad synth. That's a great line. I like that very much.
Too many blokes are getting heavy when a girl looks unsteady.
Oh, okay. So I can see what this song's about. That's intense. I'm just gonna mention something again that I said before, that YUNGBLUD literally doesn't shy away from any sort of sensitive issues, and that's a good thing. I think that's really good. And this is seemingly a song about date rape, which is a thing that happens way too much. I'll be interested to see how he continues to address it. I'm glad that so far he seems to be like placing all the blame on the guys, because there seems to be this like weird vibe that a lot of people have that like, oh, well, if she's drunk, that's her fault. And I'm like, you wouldn't say that about like literally any other crime ever. If I leave a window open, I deserve to get robbed, or it's my fault if someone robs me. That's just wild, right? How about we say don't rob people, don't rape people, don't do terrible things to people, and we try to instill that into our culture.
Leave it so lonely, she doesn't want to go home with you, no. Leave it so lonely, leave it so lonely.
One thing that seems really interesting about the way that he's talking about it to me is that it seems like he's saying there's this element like within society that it just feels normal, right? Like that people would almost find it weird if you were like, hey, she doesn't want to go home with you, bro, leave her alone. And that to me is weird. The fact that saying that to someone is weird, because like there are a lot of people that would think I'm the bad guy in a situation if some dude is harassing a drunk woman and I tell him to leave her alone. It's like I'm stopping him from scoring or something, but like, why do you want to take advantage of someone? I don't know. Consent is sexy.
No scented candles in sight. Just a stranger on his side says cheers, love for last night.
Oh, yikes.
She doesn't want to go home with you, home with you. Leave it alone, mate. She doesn't want to go home with you.
Oh, I do not like that point of view, geez. That like look around is usually not like a, oh, I'm just not paying attention. It's actively trying to find someone that you know and can trust to make sure that you're okay. I mean, not very many times, thankfully, but a few times in my life, seen friends of mine have that look and then have a dude whip their head straight back to be like, no, focus on me. It feels like these little bits of minutia that feels like maybe he did his research about this.
She stirs when she speaks, but you hear what you want when she can't even talk.
One thing that really like gets me about this is that this sort of stuff, not just to do with like being blackout drunk or being drugged, but sexual assault in general, this happens to a lot of women and obviously a lot of guys, but like predominantly women. And you know, statistically, a large percentage of the people watching this video will have had some kind of negative sexual experience. And that is terrifying and sad to me that it's so instilled in our culture. So it's nice to have things like this that like, you know, obviously this isn't gonna like solve the issue, but it opens up a conversation where people can be more forthcoming and really try to adjust other people's worldviews.
She stirs when she speaks, but you hear what you want when she can't even talk.
In the story there, that guy in that situation is just 100% undoubtedly a predator. And I feel like not enough people understand that. I think the only other thing I'd like to say that like isn't necessarily so obvious about that, and again, it might be unintentional, but like think of the fact that in that story, he took her out of the club, walking down the street into a taxi, walking down the street again into his house. And at no point did anyone say, do you know this woman? Which also says a lot, because that happens. I've seen it. I've had to be the person that is like, do you know this woman, or are you just taking advantage of some random woman that you don't know? So I think that's something to keep in mind, if nothing else, that if you see someone in that state, there's no shame in asking. Take it from someone that has like been walking a friend home in that state. I appreciate it. I wasn't like, wow, how dare they insinuate that I'm trying to take advantage. I was like, I'm glad that a stranger cared enough to come and check up. And I wasn't offended, because it's not like they saw me and were like, well, that's a creepy guy. It's the situation they're seeing that they just want to question and make sure that everything's okay. Anyway, I think it's time to wrap up. That was a very interesting video and a very interesting song, and something I'm glad exists. But yeah, very, very serious topic to end this on. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. And as always, have an awesome time until I see you next. See ya.